This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. I've got a killer conversation to share with you featuring Chris Basile from long-running New York death metal titans Pyrexia. Now the catalyst for the conversation is the re-recording and the re-release of the album from 1997, 25th anniversary as a matter of fact, System of the Animal. You're going to hear a tune from that album rather soon, but I need to tell you about some of the other things that you can expect to hear throughout this chat. Chris talks about the long-running, and I'm going to call it success. I mean, any band that's been around for as long as Pyrexia deserves to be called successful, even though it's been a bit of a hard graft, no doubt. But we also cross over into social and political commentary, and I think that is the equal of the musical conversation in this chat. Now, as I mentioned, we will hear a tune from the album System of the Animal. I've selected Purging the Nemesis for your listening pleasure. Of course, that's only for you people on the podcast apps. For you YouTube people, you know the drill. I can't play bloody music lest I get a copyright strike. So we're going to cut to the conversation as soon as I finish talking here. For all you people on the podcast apps, enjoy. Here's Purging the Nemesis. Let's go. Brother.
Hey, what's going on, my friend?
Mate, it's a very early in the morning here. It's a crisp, I don't know, being in New York, you'd probably laugh when I say it's about 15 degrees, but Celsius, that is, not Fahrenheit. So it's probably something resembling your summers, but still it's bloody freezing for us.
All right, it's early in the morning. You say 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, 5 a.m. Yep, 5 a.m. indeed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm used to it, though. Yeah, I'm used to it. I just saw Emperor last night as well, just up the road, and they were very good, mate. So got a bit of energy from that.
Oh, that's sick. Well, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for having me out here.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I've been following the band, I wouldn't say closely for a long time, but I certainly were aware of you courtesy of Metal Maniacs, the magazine.
Oh, great.
From back in the day, and as a young fella not having access to a lot of funds, you couldn't buy a lot of CDs, and then there was the Napster revolution, but then the streaming thing has allowed me to become a bit more familiar with your back catalogue, if you like, and just congratulations on crafting such wonderfully wonderfully heavy, brutal music. It's just been a joy to listen to.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah. So what's the motivating factor behind sharing the album all over again, System of the Animal, and re-recording it for its 25th anniversary?
One of the reasons, I guess, because we can, and I don't know, it's kind of bored. We have an album that just came out about 16 months ago, and it's really not common to put out new material, so close together. But I'm in a situation right now where we have our own studio, and I pretty much do this full time. And I find myself with a lot of time on my hands these days to, continue working and continue putting out stuff. So one of the things that came to my head is we just did this last album, Gravitas Maximus, with Demigod Studios. And I was really finally felt we achieved like a production I have been searching for, and really haven't been able to get for most of the material we put out. So it happens to be the 25th anniversary of System of the Animal. And that album came out at a time in 1997, 98, where it was on a small, tiny Denmark label. Unless you were like a hardcore Pyrexia fan back then, you probably didn't get your hands on it. And since then, it's never been released in any streaming format, any replication ever since the early days. So it just seemed appropriate. I was looking for a project to do in the downtime. And I said, you know what? Got the new lineup, new singer, much heavier. Love this Demigod production, 25th anniversary. We have our own studio. Let's do this. Let's re-record the album and let's put it out again. So that was basically what started it. And, I'm really glad with the results. I'm happy we did it.
Have you received support or otherwise from some old fans who love all of the blurps and squeaks on the original?
Well, that's it. See, it's a very small. That's another reason I redid it is because it was 25 years ago. That's a whole different crowd was around back then. Half the kids that listened to death metal weren't even alive then. So it really did not get any exposure back then. There's definitely some diehard old cats that, like I'm the same way, want to see things kept in their original form and don't mess with it. And, I get that. And I definitely respect that, But it's such a small portion because it was not really properly released. It came out on a Danish label with no distribution, small pressing, no internet back then, not streaming now. It just felt like it's, again, like we could reintroduce to newer fans that don't really understand our background and, some of the work we did.
Were you tempted to, I'll be honest, I haven't heard the original, meaning the one that was recorded 25 years ago.
You haven't, right?
No, never. No,
most people haven't. Most people haven't. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a great idea to remint it then. But were you tempted or did you redo some of the songs differently, so slightly different arrangements or lyrics, that sort of thing?
We kept it pretty much straight to the barrel because I know there would be some critics out there. But again, we used a completely different vocalist, which is much more guttural and deep, which gave it a completely different feel, 100%. And the difference is in this one, you can hear the riffs that I'm playing, where back in 1996, when I recorded it, 97, it sounds like a mush. I mean, some of the things stand out, but the faster riffs, you really can't tell what's going on. So just being able to play them and actually articulate them and hear them, I think really put a new, fresh spin on the whole thing.
Tell me about the opening spoken word section from the first song there. Was there it's taken on a very different context in 2025, hasn't it? 2023, gosh, we're not that far ahead yet, are we?
Not yet, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's interpreted very differently these days, isn't it? Commentary like that.
I would say so. The world today might appreciate that, though, even though it was 25 years ago. There's people in the world today that just want to see hate, that just want to see people fight each other over differences, whether it be race, culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, whatever it is. They just want to see you at each other's throats. And that's nothing new. I mean, people going through it today might feel like, oh, this is a turn of times. And no, it's been going on forever. Dr. Seuss wrote a book about it with, one group of guys had stars on their bellies and another group didn't have stars. And they fought. And this one genius came into town and was selling stars to the people that wanted and wiping the stars off the other people, just basically keeping them fighting and spending money And that's kind of what that beginning entrance is people. I mean, you can paint anybody as a horrible person or horrible people. And it seems like that guy just flipped it and, made like anybody of a certain ethnicity bad people. And I think if you do that on any side, of the fence, you're wrong. It should be everybody is the same, treated the same equally, love across the board. Hate, it's a bad thing. And it's not new. Hate is not new. It's like the oldest thing in the book. And in any form, no good.
Well said. Yeah, it's not just in the United States, it's here in Australia too. Critical race theory is a very divisive tool, if you like, used by the political class. And we've got something going on called the Voice to Parliament, which is going to, the idea behind it, the philosophy behind it is to give the Indigenous people, whoever they might be, meaning self-identification rules in these instances. So you can be 1 in 64th Australian Aboriginal, and you can potentially have a say in this external body, which is going to have a say on matters in the Senate and in our Parliament, so our version of Congress, if you like. And it's going to be enshrined in the Constitution. That's the big difference. Now, what issues are they going to have a say in? You pick. It's everything, meaning there's nothing that's off the table, and we're going to see a lot of High Court challenges and things which are going to slow our judicial process effectively. But we're also creating a class of elites through that process, and a lot of them, they are white and light-skinned. Black identifying is the key thing. The critical race theory is the implement or the tool that's allowing this all to happen. So it was great to see that you actually left that spoken word piece on the introduction to that, and I hope a lot of people can hear it and hear the what's the right way of framing it? Well, we're just in an era at the moment where people are being divided by immutable characteristics, and it's a good summary of it, isn't it?
And it's not new. It's just more people seem to be aware of it because of the internet and because of everything. But people have been trying to divide us over race and over everything since the beginning of government.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the situation? You're living in New York City, I take it, or roundabouts?
Not the city, but I worked in Manhattan for 20 years, so I'm well aware. I've only stopped working in the city right around the time COVID started.
Oh, yeah, bloody COVID, yeah. The situation here with the death of Jordan Neely and the Marine, Daniel Penny, is that making things
crazy.
very...
Your side of the country, there's a million things that happen every day in the world. It's just crazy how the media can now make that an issue in Australia or conversation in Australia. How many dramatic, horrible things happen on a daily basis across every state and country, yet now they've chosen this one issue to make a global conversation. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty crazy. It's a terrible incident, but I don't find it to be any more horrible or special or different than all the other incidents that we could look at any day, from Chicago to New York to California to why do we pick this one to make it big? And now, like I said, it's going to be talked about across the world. That's strange to me.
What has it been since George Floyd? It's been a couple of years, so they need something to reignite the race war, don't they? And they've just chosen this episode.
His picks, that's the obvious thing. I hope it becomes more obvious to people, because that's the obvious thing. I mean, they're just picking something. When it starts to simmer down again, let's pick something up, make sure we fire everybody up, make sure they remind them that they hate each other. We don't hate each other. That's all got to stop.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What about talking about the music again? Your experiences from the early days. I mean, surely at this point you could write a book on the early days of New York death metal, because you're right in there, in and amongst the greats. So those early days with Suffocation, Terence Hobbs, what are some of the more memorable and prominent memories that you've got of that era?
I think what's lost in a lot of things, because like I said, the internet wasn't around back then, is probably the early. I mean, Terence Hobbs knows the first song I ever wrote. The first song I wrote in my life, I showed to Hobbs, because that was the first band I ever really was in. Wasn't called Suffocation or Pyrexia, obviously. It was called Mortuary. But my earliest memories are sitting in Terence's room on his bed, writing 20, 30 songs with this guy of the most brutal stuff that everybody listens to today, but there was no way of getting it out. There was no, like I say, no internet. Plus, we were so young, we weren't even hardly old enough to play some of the clubs to even go, to try to get the music out there. The first show we ever played, this is a great memory of the earliest days, was the Battle of the Bands in a high school that neither Hobbs nor I went to. But our drummer, Mike Smith, went to the high school, Longwood High School. And we went in under false names so we could play the Battle of the Bands. And that was like our first official show ever out of high school. And some of them songs and riffs, they were on Pyrexia albums. And they were on Suffocation albums. So I have to say that's some of the most memorable stuff is the earliest days. First meeting Doug Cerrito and bringing him into the band and starting to work with him and jam with him and write music with him. That was like, pretty memorable stuff. We all wrote a lot of memorable material back then. And it's just crazy times. Back then, you also had to really play your instrument. Mike Smith is probably the only person in a 1,000-mile radius that could blast beat. You know what I'm saying? So things were very different back then. Very, very different. No internet. Every musician that did this knew how to play their instrument. No fake. No way to fake it. That's I have to say back then. Especially if you want to record something, you had to pony up some money if you want to do a demo. Nowadays, you could take your iPhone and record something that sounds better that we spent $2,000 on back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was no way to demo your material out like you can now. You really had to be rehearsed and have a couple of bucks or have somebody else give you a couple of bucks to get into a studio. Because again, there was no studios. Nobody could record death metal. The first studio we recorded at was basically a rap studio. Public Enemy recorded there. LL Cool J recorded there. Now here comes Pyrexia. These guys didn't have an ear or a talent for recording death metal drums or guitars. And we were children. So we didn't have any idea either at the time. So things have come a long way because there's a lot for everybody now to look back on and say, oh, this is how you do it. Oh, I can do this. And now the equipment's available. You could have a digital drum set and, easy drummer or superior drummer and map out a whole song and demo it for your band. Where back then you'd have to meet with your drummer and show him the parts. You know what I'm saying? It's everything's different now. It's different.
Yeah, I'm 45, so I caught a lot of it back then. I was a young fella, 13, 14, this sort of thing in 1992, 1993. But I often say to people on the show that don't think that there's a trove of underground bands that you hadn't heard of from back then, because meaning that back in those days, if you achieved any type of prominence, you were fucking good. To your point there about having to play your own instrument because there was no faking it.
You couldn't fake it, and you better be good because you're paying $50, $100 an hour at some wacky studio. You don't want to be going over and over. You want to get shit done on one take. So there's a lot involved, man. You don't want to waste your money. You didn't have any money. So it was pretty, very different. You got to be more dedicated, probably, Spend a lot of time making photocopies and, libraries and kink, stuff like that, where, it's just everything's more accessible for kids. So it's easy to be in a band or a musician, than it was back then.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. And you mentioned Doug Cerrito. I've tried to find him, not in a weird stalker way, but just to have a chat with the fella because I'm sure he's got a story to tell. But what are your prominent memories about him specifically?
Just a great guy, great musician, funny. Definitely keeps to himself, though. He has no interest in doing something like this. You know what I'm saying? He would have no interest in, I'm trying to get this record out there, so I'm willing to talk to anybody, that wants to listen to me talk about the record. Where he just doesn't have the chance to do that. He probably still enjoys writing, and he's got great recording studio. Himself. But I see him from time to time. He comes to Pyrexia shows. I see him at events. But as far as he just keeps to his own little very small circle. And but he's very, like I said, I have a great time when I do hang out with him and laugh about the old days. And he's good. Yeah. He's good.
Sweet, yeah. I listened to another one of your interviews in preparation for our chat, and you're talking about how to bring in another member is really about bringing in someone who can contribute energy to the situation. So have you found those people?
No, no, no. And actually, that's like again, it's conversation we were having. We had some practice last night. We got a couple of things coming up, and that's like the hardest thing. It's like if you were less of a guitar player, but you brought such a hard dedication and energy, you stay in this project the rest of your life. I don't care if you came down and you were the best guitarist in the world, but all you want to do is show up 10 minutes before a show, not assist in the real work that playing a show is not. That's 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? It's the hours and the other stuff that goes into it that you really need help with. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not willing to do that in this band, then it's really probably not the situation for you. We have a family, really look out for each other situation here. So when someone steps in, if they don't gel with that and it doesn't work like that, it usually doesn't work out. We don't look for like fill-ins or like studio musicians to come help play. If you're going to join or be with us, it would be more like, come join us, because it's more, look, the joke is, how long can you sit in a van with someone and laugh and not, be annoyed by the other person?
Yeah.
That's you know what I'm saying? So, a lot goes into it. But no, we've actually decided, it looks like we're going to stay as a 4-piece, because we just did like 6-7 tours as a 4-piece, and it just works out great for flying, for hotels, it's an even number. It's just less personalities. It actually works out great. We're actually tighter, I feel. So it looks like we're going to stay like this, at least for the time being.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that you really miss having the second guitarist when you're in those situations? So therefore, do you have to use backing tracks in the best possible way, because the music's very intricate at times? Well,
you don't get your harmonies. Leads are difficult because you might, things will drop out. We have certain things where 2 guitars are doing. There are like a couple of songs actually that are not played in the set list. So that, yes, that is an issue at sometimes. But again, it's just so difficult to bring someone in. And it's really always akin to like getting married or dating. It really is like, has to be the right person, in the right situation.
And you've succeeded and achieved despite all of this. Now, I'm a musician too. I've been in tons of bands and been playing for the better part of 25 years now myself. And it's when you have the wrong person in the band alongside of you, and you are just forget about even packing up the PA, putting it together, getting all of that stuff sorted. Yeah. But when you're on stage and they're just not enthusiastic about playing in front of people, and they're making mistakes, basic mistakes, different mistakes every gig, it's one of the most frustrating things, isn't it?
That, as well as like if you present like a giant tour that you've been really working hard and they don't get excited, and they're like, oh, they're not on the same page as like with the enthusiasm of that level. You get on a huge festival and maybe they don't answer your text back, or they don't seem like they're disinterested on what you find very big. It's things like that where I see, maybe that might be not the right fit for you. If those things aren't big deals, or it's not something you feel like, if we have a video shoot or something and you have a hard time fitting that into your schedule, then maybe this isn't for you. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of a priority for what we're doing right now. So it's things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Well, you've been going now for, gosh, what are we talking now? It's going on 40 years or thereabouts, almost close, isn't it? Really, from when
not that long. I mean, Christ, I'm not coming up on 70, but probably close to like 30 years. Yeah, 1990. So what is that? 33 years.
33 years. Yeah, but I'm talking about from when you first started playing music and the like, and then.
Oh my God. Yeah. 12 years old.
Yeah, 40 years. Look, if you could go back and give yourself any advice now, when you first started, those Genesis years, when you're coming through, meeting people, working out who you want to play, who you need to play with based on all these things that we just talked about, what advice do you think you'd give yourself?
All right, 100%. And I say this to people a lot. I spent a lot of time, like I said, I worked in the city for 20 years. If I could go back to talk to young Chris, I would definitely say, do not take, now again, I not say do this for everybody, because don't try to be, I'm not going to go tell you to be a professional baseball player if you can't throw, if you can't hit a fucking 90 mile pitch. But if you really got the skills to be a baseball player and you believe it and you can hit that pitch, go for whatever it is you're trying to go for. Because I definitely held back and did not go after Pyrexia full on. I was too worried about having a career and supporting a family and worried about bills, where nowadays I would say, fuck that. Any monkey can make money. You will figure out a way to survive unless unless you're a bum. That's when you don't pay your bills, if you're a bum. You're not a bum if you're trying to hustle and make your band big and do all kinds of shit. You're going to find a way. So I would have told myself, don't go for the career. Stick with Pyrexia or whatever musical endeavors you want to follow, and go at that as hard as you would if you were studying to be a surgeon.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, all or nothing sort of attitude.
All or nothing. Why you wouldn't? I always do it the opposite. Would you try to be a surgeon part time? I want to be a surgeon, but I'm only going to do it maybe every couple of weeks. I'll read. I'll study once a week. No, you got to go in, man. You're going to be studying all day, every day. Internships, tired nights, long nights. I akin that to being in the airport with layovers. It's not going to be all peaches and cream. But if how long does a doctor study and intern and do rough shifts before he's got his own practice? 12, 15, 16 years, right? Before he's got his own practice and he's doing his own, and forget about it.
Precisely. Yeah.
You know
long apprenticeship. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you put the same thing into anything you do? People put it, bands and music, like it's not going to happen. So they put it as this side thing. And to myself, I would say, don't do that. Unless for you, it's a hobby, then keep it as a hobby. But for me, especially at this age, it's kind of hard to fake that I've dedicated my life to this. So I could have just told myself at 18, hey, Chris, you're going to dedicate your life to this. Go hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would have done that.
What's been a worthy pursuit, though? I mean, look at what you've achieved. Look at the great albums that are out there. The heaviness, that's what's going to stand the test of time. That stuff.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. It's just you always look to do better, and it's always hindsight's always 20/20. That's why I go forward now, and that's what I mean. That's why we did this album, because I do go at this full time, hard. Talk to any interview, put out record. I say now I'm going to do something probably once a year, whether it's a remaster, a re-release, or a new material or something. In the age of content, I feel you have to put that to your music as well. If you want to be a relevant, especially in death metal, a relevant act, you got to continuously, no more putting out an album, waiting 3 years, 4 years, or I say something every year. Like I said, it might not always be new, but it'll be a new content or something fresh. That's my new approach, and go full on. Like, we have tons of tours. We're set up tours through November from now, where like I said, in the days past, I could have, and I always would say no because of work and everything. But it's just a different time. Probably because the clock is running out for me too. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you start to realize at a certain point you're gonna be under the dirt, and what matters. You know what I'm saying? What matters to you? What do you want to do? And you figure it out. I wish I would have figured it out sooner. That's all. I'm just glad I finally did, though.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things with what you're doing is that you're carving out what I call a legacy. So long after you've gone, there's going to be these totems, if you like, to your creativity that are available for people to plug into. And because of the era in which you came through, see, the internet, because it's democratized information, it's a bit like the printing press. So at any given time, well into the future, I'm even talking, it's not too ethereal to talk like this, I don't believe. Hundreds of years' time, if people want to get into the origins of New York death metal, your name's going to be there.
That's I mean, if the globe is still around, if we don't blow ourselves up by then, yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at it like that, that's cool. My great grandfather, grandson might look at something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And isn't that a wonderful thing?
It is, and that's like, other than the experiences, that's the secondary thing. That's the best part about doing this. Like, I'll tell you right now, Australia's been put on the table for us, and that's like a bucket list thing for me that I can't wait to do. And I haven't mentioned this, and I'm going to put it out into the universe because I don't think it hurts things to say it, but we've just gotten an opportunity to go to China. And that's like, I can't, those are like, that's kind of a lot of the reason why I do a lot of this is the friendships, the fellowships, and the experiences like that. Because a lot of people put a monetary value on this, and I keep telling them, this is not a career, but it's definitely could be a lifestyle. You know, some people could get lucratively rich off it. I just don't think you should go into it looking at it like that, because if you do look at it as a lifestyle, you can definitely travel and see things you would never see and never go do. And that's a big aspect, along with the legacy thing, of why I've done this for so long, because I don't know what I would honestly do if I didn't do this, because other people at my age level, to me, have just folded up, and I have nothing in common with them. I don't watch Netflix. I always bring this up as a joke, but like when people talk, it's always about either a sporting event or a TV show or something that they're not involved with. They're just watching other people live lives, and you know, that's just not what it wasn't suitable for me.
That's so true, what you just said then. I can't believe nobody's brought this up before this. I've spoken to 750 people at this point, but that's that whole thing about why we do what we do, because we want to participate and contribute, as opposed to being on the sidelines and participating in life like as if we're a fucking spectator or something like that. I know I can't lead life like that, and you're clearly of the same ilk.
No. And it's that's maybe, if you want to say separate, yeah, I would say maybe that's like a separation, but I'm not angry at people for not choosing that, but it's definitely, that's a different way of looking at life, because most people are consumer, spectator position in life, looking at Facebook, looking at TikTok, watching Netflix, buying stuff, and that's how they get their adrenaline boost and their dopamine, you know, whatever. But they need that next hit. They don't know, so go find the next show, or that's I don't know. We joke, me and Sean Kennedy, who's been on this journey with me the longest, like when we go, like when St. Peter meets us at the gates, he's going to be like, yo, come on in, boys. You lived, you know, you lived your life. You get a special place. We gave you life to do something with, and you didn't waste it. You did some shit, you know?
Yeah. I often think in that terms too. You know, if St. Pete says, "Rightio, what have we got here? What have you done?" He'll bring out my book, and there'll be a few other things around music, and he'll be like, "Yeah, looks like you had a dig, mate. Come on in."
Yeah, get on in, man. You did something. You know, you did it. The book is full. It's not how many shows you watched or how many seasons of that you sat through. It's just a different way. You know, I don't know. It's just the way I am. And again, I can't even take credit. It's just in my brain. I don't purposely say I want to do this or do that. So that's why I can't judge anybody else, because I don't know what's in their brain. But I just know in my brain, it says that's not appealing to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the same page. Yeah. And you mentioned the tours there, China and potentially Australia in particular. Let's just talk about China quickly first. Is that mainland China, Macau, or Hong Kong, or can you talk about that opportunity a bit more?
Yeah, no, it's going to be like a little south of Shanghai, I believe. And it's not a tour. It's actually it's a one festival. It's a 2-day deal in October that we're actually waiting an invitation from the Chinese government, which is to me like pretty cool. You know, I think that's kind of cool, even though it's scary. You know what I mean? I know China's a crazy place, but Sean was lucky enough when he was in internal bleeding to go to Russia, and that's off the chart. That's off the blocks for me now. I'll never go to Russia because of everything that's going on right now. And that would have been a place I would really have liked to go. And China, I feel that if I don't go soon, I don't think anybody's going there soon, because I don't know what's happening. You know, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Taiwan, who knows what's going on?
Oh God, yeah. Well, Taiwan could be next, unfortunately, with the way things are going. And we live in a very, very dangerous time at this particular juncture, don't we? Yeah.
Again, to bring peace to people's mind, we have always been on a dangerous time. Just think, we were at the verge of nuclear war. We were at times when we were dropping nuclear bombs. We went through Vietnam. It feels, because we're living through it. I always try to frame this for people, because it can get overwhelming and people can get all, oh, I don't care. This is the worst time. Humanity is very messy, and it's a constant give and take with good and evil and yin and yang, whatever you want to call it. But I can't find you a period in humanity where it's been peaceful, like we want it to be, like we imagine in our minds how we think the world is going to be. Think of the Middle Ages, think of the early world wars, think of the civil wars, think of the Revolutionary War. There's just so many. It's just the way it is, and we're going through our block of history of what ours is. You remember the civil rights marches and Martin Luther King got assassinated. I mean, think of all the horrible things. Can you imagine being alive when Kennedy was assassinated? Imagine if imagine how you must have felt as a person alive in those days. People getting assassinated like every other year. You know what I mean? It was like a time people were getting assassinated, right? So I feel it's 20 years, 100 years from now, there'll be something else going on that'll seem like it's the worst ever. And I don't think it'll be then like it isn't now, like it wasn't then, because we lived through Hitler. We lived through all this terrible stuff. So it ain't worse than that right now. It's just we're actually creating these problems. Like we don't even, like it is so peaceful. We don't even know what to do. The powers that be like, we got to fuck shit up. We got to hate more because it's too good right now. It's almost more of that, I think, because it's not that bad. We've got everybody's. You got to take a deep breath. Stop hating each other. Stop focusing on, like you said, you're talking about a subway attack in my city on the other side of the world. That's manipulation. Once everybody sees through that, we'll have another maybe period of some peace because it's not as bad. I don't think. We had the Iraq War. I could go on and on, right? It's constant. It's always.
Yeah.
It's always the Twin Towers down. It's just always. It's just bang, bang, bang. It's just this is our point in history where we're dealing with. This is our hate and bullshit we got to live through.
Yeah, united we stand, divided we fall. The old saying. It's very true, and
they know.
Yeah, well, big tech. I just would like to know. There's some governing force, whatever it might be, that is uniting, say, the Democrats and big tech, and even some of the Republicans as well. But the majority of it comes from the Democrats. Yeah, although you've got over there. I mean, it's hard not to see. Unfortunately, this is what I say to my American friends: is that American domestic politics is so powerful it influences international global affairs, you see. So when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, for example, you had Black Lives Matter marches here, for God's sakes. Yet it was nothing to do with us.
That's my point. That's why I used to tell everybody here, and I tell people in America, I don't feel it's anything organic. I believe that's why I would see it in France. And I'd say, why are they rioting in France over what happened here? That's, to me, that's the globalists. That's a globalism thing where they want.
No, you're right. It is a globalist issue. It's the globalists. Yeah, no, you're on point. Yeah.
They want unrest, and they pick an issue and they say this is going to be the issue, and then then it's like, now go, and then people take to the streets, and some of them are just misled. Some of them are want the discourse, but either way, it's not good for anybody. I mean, that COVID thing, like it or not, killed and hurt and destroyed so many people and so many lives. I was on tour when it happened, and I was going from clubs, like hearing rumors like there's this thing going around that like the tour might be canceled. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And like, as it would get closer and closer to cancellation, like I said, it got canceled. The shelves it was like end of the world stuff. The shelves were empty. The toilet paper thing started happening. And I don't know about how people feel. I mean, but here we are at the other end of it. And I don't know what happened. I feel like somebody put a fucking pillowcase over my head, the shit out of me, and left me in a fucking alley somewhere. And I'm like, I get up and everybody's acting like everything's normal now. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I look at my watch and 3 years are gone. And I'm like, I feel like I don't know what happened. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was, man. I don't know what happened.
COVID was very, very real, but as they say, never let a good catastrophe go to waste, and the left certainly didn't in their various jurisdictions, New York, California, the state of Victoria, or even here in Queensland, through government overreach, through the lockdowns, unelected officials telling people what to do and how, instead of communities coming together and supporting the vulnerable, which is the way Sweden managed it. I believe Florida did something similar. But, yeah, it became
a pit contest and a political contest of whose ideas were better, and meanwhile everybody in the middle was suffering.
Yep,
that's the part of it I'm talking about. I don't even know what was right or wrong. I just know that both sides were fighting, and us in the middle were suffering, and they went on for so long. And I'm just glad it's over. And That's another reason I suck up every second of oxygen of life, because look how quick that was taken away from all of us. Who knows when the next one's, in my mind, the next thing around the corner where they say again, boom, you're not allowed to do this, or you're not allowed to go travel here or travel there. So I don't stop. God forbid something like that happens again.
Yeah. Are you friendly with John Joseph from Cro-Mags at all?
No, I don't really see. He's a couple years older than me. No, they live in a different area.
Different, yeah. I had a really good chat with him just after the COVID thing. Oh, no, actually, it wasn't just after. It was the end of last year. But anyway, we dived into the COVID hysteria, let's call it that. I got a strike on YouTube because of it. So YouTube, because you get 3 strikes, as you're probably aware with YouTube. Yeah,
right.
They gave me the strike. But Spotify carried it. Spotify carried the episode and allowed it to, well, it's still up. But, the point is that we talk about what sort of messages are getting out there. Someone being restrained and then dying on a subway in New York City, becoming big news over here in Australia. Big tech, the narrative, they choose the narratives that get out there, don't they? And if you go against that just slightly, like what John Joseph and I did, bang, don't do that, otherwise I'll kick you off. Very scary.
It's scary times that people don't realize. I mean, thank God you got big voices like Joe Rogan. That feels pretty much exactly what I feel on 90% of topics that are out there in the world. You cannot stifle ideas. You cannot dictate thought. It's just the scariest road anyone could ever think that they want to travel down. And the ignorance of getting what you want now to make these things happen could be the demise, because the internet fires up young, unexperienced minds in the masses to do things that maybe they wouldn't normally have done. And the people that want to make this happen are taking advantage of that. Hence, whether you want to believe it or not, I don't know. But from what some of the stuff they talk about TikTok, the Chinese version of TikTok, I don't know if you've seen it, is nothing like the American version of TikTok. They don't allow any of the stuff that we allow on TikTok on theirs. Theirs is purely positive, uplifting. Again, it's communism, but patriotic for them to like their country. Where ours is, hate each other, whose ass is better, let's flash the tits. I'm raising a daughter. I just took her iPad away because she's got she's rocking with the TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Well, I asked her not to do it. It's a crazy thing to navigate, to know what is organically happening out there and what's being done. And you don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you also don't want to be a sheep and just consume these things they put in front of you where you see a bunch of red flags. So, it's just different times, man. Different times.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got daughters 8 and 9, and I threaten them with the iPad all the time, meaning I'll take it away. Yeah. And they're not getting into. I've locked down YouTube so that they get the version of YouTube that I've allowed them to have, because they're under the family plan, if you like. But I've straight up said, just forget about asking for TikTok, and they're already talking about it.
All the friends have it. All the unsupervised friends, I should say, have it. And I looked into it again. I'm not that type of father where I'm just like, no, because of something I heard or read. We went on TikTok together and looked at it, and I was just like, hell no. It's just too much sexualized content for a younger person, where it's just gonna take you, in my particular opinion, not down a good, safe path.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're being a dutiful father.
Nothing to do with that. Cut this out. I'm trying to promote an album here. You're gonna have all the kids under 20 hate me and say, "Fuck this old man. We want TikTok." But
no, you're safe, Chris. When I look at YouTube, the analytics on YouTube, my audience is between 35 and 65, mate. So they love this stuff, mate. This is because they're.
I'm just saying, you don't know what you can say anymore. You say the wrong thing. It's like people, you're the bad guy. It's just that's why it's a strange time. I swear to you, it's so funny. A friend of mine who is just really enthusiastic about the band. He's become part of our crew. He's like, you guys don't have a TikTok page. This is like maybe 2 days ago. I was like, no, we don't really have that. He's like, let me make you guys a TikTok page. I was like, all right, go ahead, man. And he's out there doing that. We got a Pyrexia TikTok page out there. So, I mean, it is a useful tool. You know, I mean, it's not like I don't want to use it, don't want to, engage. I just, it's just not for the younger, I would say. I would say it's the only thing. I'm not saying it's a Chinese conspiracy thing. And my thing is just my kid is too young. I don't want her on there. That's basically my thing.
Definitely a tool of espionage too, because of the reach that it has into the rest of your devices. See, when you dive into the fine print, and again, Joe Rogan's spoken about this, but they've done it, and it's all of your connected devices on these iPhones. It records keystrokes as well. So there's no question it's a tool of espionage on behalf of the Chinese government, and they just threw probably billions of dollars into ensuring that the algorithm was something that was the best that had ever been created insofar as obtaining and working its way into the way in which we lead our lives in a digital sense and obtaining that understanding, if you like. So I've had it. I'm not signed up to it, but occasionally I'll sort of log in because there's some interesting things, frankly, that are on there. But and I can't get it anywhere else. They're not reposted on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. But I mean, all of this stuff that we're talking about, this is all what I often see. If you're an adult, these things affect you regardless of whether or not you want to believe it or not. Okay, so you can choose to lead your life with your head in the sand. And what I find is musicians like you, Chris, you've always got a nuanced take on these matters. And that's really important because music it's a bridging mechanism, if you like. It makes us feel better about these. It enhances our lives.
I could tell you one thing to make you feel better. I see a picture of somebody, like always shows a picture of somebody on a toilet with their iPhone or like their phone, they got their head down on the toilet and everything. And we all do get affected by the social media. It's just a more advanced method. I mean, you could probably remember these days, there used to be a magazine rack in the fucking bathroom where you sit on the toilet magazine rack, right? And you read the magazine and there would be advertisements for your cigarettes and for your beer. So we've been subjected to, or any article you read in Time magazine back then, you might not have known was perpetrated by someone that wanted you to read that article in Time magazine. So it's just on a much faster, far-reaching level, I think, with the internet and the phones. But I really believe, again, people used to get the morning paper every day. They'd sit there, husband and wife would be sitting at the table, both with the paper in their faces, not looking at each other. The kids eating the cereal, staring at the cereal box, reading that. We were still that type of human side of things. It's just that now it's just sped up. It's slicker. It's glossier. It's more enticing. There's more ways for them to make money out of it. They bring you in more. But I really think the general idea has been going on since Mad Men, since that, the earliest days of advertisement. And it's just human psychology, man. When they used to flash the subliminal shit in the movie theater, it's just, they were always doing something to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were always messing with us. Yeah,
always.
Agreed. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Mate, I'll make this my final question for you, and it's something that you've already mentioned, but us here in Australia, have you had a lot of messages and mail from us over the years?
Oh, absolutely, man. Australia is definitely, I feel very akin to America. I have, actually, Josh Barron, who used to be in Suffocation for the first two, that's maybe the first record. He lives out there now. He's got a band, Mammoth, I think. And I think it's Adelaide or something. But he's out there now, and he brought his whole family. I went to high school with him, and his whole family's out there now.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of kinship between the United States and Australia, no doubt. But the tyranny of distance pre-internet meant that it all felt so far away from us.
I agree.
And as I say, I was certainly aware of the band and was a fan, no doubt. And I just appreciate that you've focused on being as heavy, or my interpretation of it is you've always kept the heavy groove. You've never deviated from that.
Well, everybody usually has like a thing that they try to do, and we just try to keep it fresh, but yet not deviate from what really people expect when we put something out, which a lot of times people are disappointed. We do have a lot of fans. I don't know, you might not know, really just like the first album we did, Sermon, and don't want to hear anything different. And it has to be just like that. And that's like the Bible. And I can appreciate the purism of that, but I do like to mix it up on the albums. But like you said, generally keep it heavy and, stick to a thing, but, fresh and different each time,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, mate, I hope to see you out here sometime. It'd be great to catch up, but it'd be great to watch you.
Same here, brother.
Well, thanks very much for this, man. It's been a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, man. I really appreciate meeting you, and hopefully we meet in person one day.
Absolutely, brother. God bless. Thanks a lot, brother.
Yeah. God bless you.
Catch ya. There he is, ladies and gents. What a fantastic fella, Chris Basile from Pyrexia. I hope he's on the 70,000 tons of metal cruise, which launches from Miami in January 2024, because I'm going to be on it, and I'm advertising that on my website, scarsandguitars.com. Whilst you're at the website, why don't you check out my book as well? Click the link in the banner, and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. The book is all about conversations that have taken place for the podcast. It's an expanded. I go into a lot more detail, some of the commentary around what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what was going on in my life, even what was going on in the world at the time. Yeah, it's a book that goes there, just like that conversation you heard. Nice one. Chris, thanks very much again, mate. All right. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. There's some more information to share with you about the book Scars and Guitars, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond in the Moment. So please stick around for that. And until next time, it's a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Cold Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Cold Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.